I want to explain why I'm dedicating my entire show to this subject. Because I believe in America first principles. If you stand on your principles, you never have to change your positions. I truly believe in an American principle called innocent until proven guilty. I have a documented, verifiable record since God gave me this platform of standing with the accused when the mob comes after them. Starting with Donald Trump. I stood with Donald Trump against my own family, my own friends. When he was arrested those 4 or 5 times, I stood with Donald Trump because I believe in America first principles, innocent until proven guilty. Pastor Tony Spell, I don't know if any of you remember during the COVID crisis when they came and arrested Tony. I was the first podcaster with a major influence to stand up against everybody for Tony Spell. Even the people from his own religion, I stood up against. Because I believe in innocent until proven guilty. And so far, everyone that I've stood up for is still innocent and not been proven guilty. So I got a good track record, you know. Pete Hegseth, I stood up for Pete and declared when everybody else was saying he needs to resign, I said no, he is innocent until proven guilty. Before I came to this microphone tonight, I was in the kitchen with my wife, and she said, honey, I prayed for you for your show tonight. And I said, thank you, honey. Then I asked my wife a question. I said, why do I do it? She said, why do you do what? I said, why do I put myself in these situations of always fighting to defend people that I've never even gotten a thank you from? It's not like it pays great dividends. It's not like I get anything out of it. Always fighting for the innocent, because everyone's innocent until they're guilty. And my wife said it's because you've experienced it yourself. That made a lot of sense because I know what it feels like when you have some notoriety and people feel like you have no feelings. You can be lied on. You can create fake book pages to destroy you. The world we live in today, it's rabid. We've never lived in a time like this. I know the pain when my wife lost her only son. I don't know who changed the rules in America, but there was a time in our nation when there was some things off limits. The church, off limits. A grieving mother or anyone grieving, they're off limits for a little while. The American way, no matter what, even your worst enemy, you give them time to grieve. But I remember when my wife was grieving, every day we're getting screenshots of how the enemy doesn't like how we're grieving. We're not grieving hard enough, or we're grieving too hard and it's all a show. No matter what you do, nothing's right. And so you'll pardon me when I look at Erica Kirk and I see something that should be off limits. You will pardon me if I rise to defend an innocent widow against an internet bully. And that's why I'm here tonight. I do not come before you tonight with any desire to attack Candace Owens. I have no interest in Candace Owens. And when I get done with tonight's class, you probably won't either. I have no interest for or against Candace Owens. whatsoever. I wouldn't give her 5 minutes on my show if she wasn't forcing me into that position. But when you are an internet bully attacking a widow in her time of grieving, let me explain something. No matter what Erica Kirk does, it's going to be wrong. She could go in a bedroom and not come out for 2 years crying, and she would be called a drama queen. Or she could come right out determined to keep her husband's legacy going and be called a grifter. No matter what she does, she's not going to please anybody. I wish we lived in a time where she was off limits. Given time, a year, 2 years, to grieve over your husband, no one watching me tonight is allowed to tell anyone how to grieve. No one. Some people, they're in such shock, they need to go out and stay busy. Stop telling Erica Kirk how to grieve or how not to grieve. You don't have that right, Candace Owens, or anybody that's doing that. I have nothing personal against Candace Owens. I want everybody to know that tonight. I don't know her. I've never met her, and at one time admired her. But here's why I'm here today. Because Candace Owens has taken her microphone, which is 10,000 times more powerful than mine, and has made evil accusations against innocent people. You say, Pastor Vaughn or Professor Toto, how do you know they're innocent? Because they're American, and I'm American. They're innocent until they go to court and they're found guilty. Candace Owens has made accusations that both President Trump and Candace Owens and Erica Kirk is involved in the cover-up of murder. And I'm here tonight to defend innocent people. Candace, the woman is a widow, for God's sake. You act like you lost your husband. It's weird. I mean, where is your husband, by the way? How does he feel sitting at home watching you fight so hard for another woman's husband? It's really weird. Let me show you Candace making an accusation of murder against President Donald Trump, the one you and I fought for so many years.
My heart aches for the fact that he gave so much of his life to Trump and to politics. And
all right, let's start off with the subject matter. Who is the first word out of her mouth? The first name, Trump. Okay, so this entire dialogue is about Charlie Kirk giving his life to Donald Trump.
And they just were like, nope.
And they, now who is the subject of the pronoun? Who was the noun? Donald Trump. They has to be Donald Trump. Say, no, we're through with you. We're done.
It serves us or it doesn't serve us, and we want to move.
We're going to move on. Now, we know the only man in America that gave Charlie Kirk a National Day of Remembrance is Donald Trump, the man she's talking about.
Bro, if they try to give me a holiday, what is with them giving people a holiday after they kill them?
What is it with people giving you a holiday after they kill you? What world do we live in anymore? The subject is Donald Trump. And after he gives a holiday to Charlie Kirk, what is it with giving them a holiday after you kill them?
Why is that a thing?
Martin Luther King, what about this holiday?
What about this boulevard? Anyways, let me knock it off. Like, they're going to give Charlie Kirk a boulevard. They already did. They did.
Who is they? The subject is Donald Trump. They already gave him a holiday after they killed him.
Israel. They gave him freaking bullet. It's like a
Soon as they give you a holiday,
they definitely killed you.
They definitely killed you. That's where we are in the world. And what's so sad, many people watching me tonight or follow her. They believe every word she says. With that stuff like that coming out of her mouth in America, that is where we are, my fellow Americans. The woman literally accused, and then I've got other clips of her saying Erica Kirk knows more than she's saying, that she's literally covering it up. And that is where we are. Candace Owens makes accusations against innocent people, and we're all supposed to be okay with that. So I rise today as Professor Toto in defense of Erica Kirk and Donald Trump. I rise in defense of a grieving widow. I rise in defense of the Jewish people. I rise in defense of those that cannot defend themselves against a woman with a microphone and millions of followers. She doesn't intimidate me because I understand now what she is. I didn't before until 2 or 3 weeks of intense research, which I'm going to share with you tonight. In order for me to defend the innocent, to help you see why these accusations should be rejected, I must show you something first. It's called a pattern. Because patterns help us to see the picture. I've not come tonight to expose anyone. I've come to expose patterns. And then I'll let you draw the picture. Patterns reveal what words try to hide. When you're dealing with people, patterns will always reveal what their words are trying to hide. Patterns expose what carefully crafted narratives attempt to hide. My hope tonight in this class is very simple. Some of you, hopefully many of you, who have heard Candace Owens and found yourself with questions. Well, she's asking good questions. No one is against asking questions. Hello, I'm Professor Toto. I love to ask questions. But there is a fine line between asking questions and making accusations disguised as a question. For example, did she just steal that purse? Did. I just ask a question. No, you're slick. You're accusing, and you're hiding it behind a question, okay? So the patterns that I'm going to show you tonight, in my opinion, discredits her motives. The patterns go back for years. A pattern that repeats itself every single time she doesn't get what she wants. It never fails. You're going to see those patterns. So settle in, get comfortable, because class is in session tonight. And by the time we're done, you're going to know the complete story of Candace Owens. And you may never look at her the same way again once you see the patterns. Let's start off. Are you ready? Got your pens ready? You're going to want to take notes. Our story begins in Stamford, Connecticut, 1989, April the 29th, Candace Amber Owens. White Plains, New York, but she was raised in Stamford, Connecticut by her mother and grandparents. Her parents divorced when she was around 12 years old. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When she was 17 years old, she received 3 racist death threats on a voicemail message from white male classmates. One of those classmates is now the Democrat governor of Connecticut. Her family sued, and they settled for a large amount of money out of court. Candace learned something very interesting. Victimhood has value. She got her first lesson in victimhood at 17 years old. She learned the value of being a victim. Candace enrolled at the University of Rhode Island as a journalism major. She never graduated. After dropping out, she was an intern at Vogue magazine, where she was an administrative assistant at a private equity firm in Manhattan. In 2015, 1 year before Donald Trump was elected, Candace Owens became the CEO of a company called Degree 180. That's a marketing agency that ran a blog. This is where things get very interesting. This is where you're about to find the real Candace Owens. She's nasty, ugly, hateful, foul, and evil. Why do I say that? A zebra does not change his stripes. Let's go back to Degree 180 and look at the blog that Candace Owens wrote. We're going to share the screen with you now, and let's go back and find the real Candace Owens. Now, this was very hard for me to find, by the way. It is archived. You cannot find this anywhere on the internet except in the archives. But this was her company, Degree 180. And this is what she wrote 1 year before Donald Trump is elected. Notice who the author is, Candace Owens. Notice the date, 2015. The title of her article, "The Republican Tea Party is led by the Mad Hatter." That's what she called Donald Trump. And then she said she launched a full-scale investigation into the crazy antics of the Republican Party. And she said it's being led by the Mad Hatter. But I want you to notice the highlighted paragraph. The good news is they will eventually die off. And then we can get right on with the obvious social change that needs to happen immediately. I wonder what social change she was referring to. The good news is me and you, the Republicans, will all die off and they can get to moving with their obvious social change immediately. Number one, the gay, transgendered, bi, straight, because she doesn't give a SHIT, she's such a lady, about this. I actually remember being in the 3rd grade, and one of my guys' friends was a homosexual, and I didn't give a blank then. It's not my business. Anyway, she's so foul. Number two, people will instantly acknowledge that the president's should not be a topic of discussion again. Women's reproductive organs. When you read this article, it is so vile and nasty. I wouldn't say the words that this woman was saying in 2015. She published those words under her own name, and she said the good news is they will all die off. Now, I want to show you something that Candace Owens authored herself. And I have scribbled out some words, but you can read between the lines. Do you remember this? Does Donald Trump actually have a small finger? Anybody remember that? Guess who wrote that article? Look at the date, March 18th, 2016. Donald Trump's almost president, right? March 18th, it was this foul-mouthed woman, this bully, that wrote that salacious article. How do you go from mocking a man's anatomy, calling him a racist, a mad hatter, to calling him the savior of civilization a few months later? How does that happen? Either she had the most profound political conversion in world history, or she's an opportunist who follows the money and the attention. So let's find out what the evidence supports. Did she have a conversion, or is she an opportunist? On April 13th, 2016, right after she wrote that about Donald Trump's anatomy, Candace Owens launched a campaign with Kickstarter for something called socialautopsy.com. The goal was to raise $75,000 to create a database where people could submit screenshots of an offensive post and publicly expose internet bullies. Here's how she described it in her own words. We attach people's words to their places of employment. So much for free speech with Candace Owens, right? Anybody in the entire world can go to their job. What we're doing is taking the mask so nobody can hide behind Twitter handles. Now think about that for a moment, class. Candace Owens, who later became the champion of free speech, wanted to create a database to track and expose people for their speeches online, to attach their words to their employers and make it searchable by anyone in the world so you could show up at their jobs and dox them. But here's what happened, and it's quite remarkable. That project was criticized not just by the right, but by the left. This project was Candace's baby. This socialautopsy.com was her baby. But there was a big surprise for Candace she wasn't expecting. The left turned against her. Anti-activists called it dangerous. Even Zoe Quinn personally reached out to Candace to warn her how dangerous this would be. She was launching a platform, and her liberal left friends were turning on her. Now, we have evidence of that. Here's some of the headlines from that time. The Daily Dot said controversial bully shaming database loses Kickstarter, but will launch anyway. People from all sides of the anti-harassment debate were quick to criticize the database, calling it public shaming list that would encourage doxing and retaliatory harassment. Adweek, Social Autopsy, and these are liberal magazines, by the way, a platform from online shaming and mob rule. The campaign was suspended April the 14th for violating Kickstarter's term of service. The day after she started raising her $75,000, she only got $5,000, and the liberals had it shut down. That's important that you remember that. The magazine We Hunted the Mammoth. Social Autopsy founder Candace Owens channels Gamergate in a bizarre attack on Zoe Quinn. Kickstarter suspended Social Autopsy's campaign for violating the rules. Kickstarter suspends Owens' fundraiser for violating the rules, for doxing individuals. Now keep in mind, this is not conservatives turning against Candace. This is liberals. Okay? What I'm telling you right now is so important for you to keep in mind. It was liberals that shut down her dream 24 hours after she launched it, it was shut down. This is where the magic happened. After social autopsy failed, that opportunity failed, Candace Owens said she became a conservative overnight. That's a direct quote. And I'm going to tell you the reason. Are you ready? Here's a direct quote. I suddenly realized that liberals were the real racists. Liberals were the real trolls. Social autopsy is why I'm conservative. Did you hear it? Suddenly, the liberals are racist because they shut down social autopsy. It was the liberals that did it, not the conservatives. And overnight, she now hates the liberals. One failed Kickstarter, and that's what turned her from they should all die to Trump is the savior of the Western world. Really? Really? But wait, let's read between the lines, okay? Let's look at what she's actually saying. She said social autopsy is why I'm conservative. She's not saying that she read Edmund Burke or Rush Limbaugh. She's not saying she discovered free market economics or that she had a revelation about limited government. She's saying the left rejected me. Her social autopsy doxing website was criticized by liberals. They called it dangerous. And who does she blame? Liberals. Why? Because she expected them to support her since she had just talked about the anatomy of President Trump, called him a Mad Hatter, said we should all die. They should be supporting her. She was one of them. She was running a liberal blog. She was mocking Trump's anatomy, calling Republicans bat crap crazy. And then she created her baby, social autopsy, and the left turned on her. Her own people rejected her. Do you see it, students? Do you see a pattern beginning to emerge? This is the woman scorned before Charlie Kirk ever entered the picture, okay? Remember, at age 17, the woman scorned. Here we have the woman scorned, right? She did not have an ideological awakening, my fellow American. She had a revenge awakening. She said, you want to turn on me? I'll burn it all down before I leave. And that's the pattern. Scorn me, and I'll destroy you. And it will repeat itself over and over. And it looks like this. This is the fire starter, I call her. The liberals reject social autopsy. She burns the left by becoming conservative. You're going to find out in 2018 when Charlie finds Erica, she burns TPUSA and she finds George. 2024, Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire rejected her. She burned them down. 2025, TPUSA doesn't do what she wants about Israel. She burns Erica, burns them all down. I'm not here to expose Candace tonight. I'm here to expose patterns, because patterns always tell the truth. There's your pattern. The woman scorned pattern did not start with Charlie Kirk. It started with the left in 2016. Charlie's just another chapter in a book that was already being written. Her conversion to our side was not about our principles. I bet she knows nothing about the United States Constitution or the Articles, the Bill of Rights, the Federal Papers. She knows nothing about any of that. The amendments, I could guarantee it. It was revenge on the people that rejected her. And when conservatives eventually rejected her too, she's burning their house down as she leaves. Her liberal grift failed social autopsy. Her website was shut down. I don't think she had any opportunities on the left. I'm going to prove it in just a moment. She had no more opportunities on the left. Failure after failure. There was nothing left for her. So she looked right, and what did she see? Opportunity. Because if there's anything the Republican Party likes, it's one of our black brothers or sisters that sees the light. Yeah, she knew that. She knew the conservative media was hungry for young, black, articulate voices who would say what we wanted to hear, and Candace saw that hunger. Suddenly, she begins another performance. In September 2017, Candace launched Red Pill Black, a YouTube channel and a website promoting black conservatism. What was her tagline? Sick of the left? I prescribe red pills. Her first video came out July the 9th, 2017. What was the title of it? Mom and Dad, I'm a conservative. It was a skit, a theatrical performance reenacting her coming out as a conservative. Not a policy discussion, not an intellectual argument about conservatism, not a principled stand, a show, a skit, a performance. From day one, this was never about conviction. It was about content. This was about building an audience from day one. And at that, she's been successful. This was about creating a character. And then she started releasing video after video. July the 16th, July 21st, the myth of the coon. Black lives don't matter. July the 28th, no transgender people in the Army. Didn't she just write an article a year earlier about transgenderism, how much she loved it? Okay, got it. August the 7th, rape versus regret. You see the pattern? Provocative titles, controversial, engagement clickbait. And then, finally, she hit pay dirt. August the 16th, 2017, 5 weeks after her first video, she went viral. The title of that video, I don't care about Charlottesville, the KKK, or white supremacy. Got her 690,000 views. She still hadn't caught up to Professor Toto. I had 10 million. But anyway, now, who noticed her after that viral video? Well, Alex Jones, InfoWars, Paul Joseph Watson, and guess who else? Jesse Waters on Fox News. They embraced her. The controversial take got her noticed. Now, here's where you need to connect the dots. July the 9th, 2017 is her first coming out video. You got that date wrote down? July the 9th, 2017. Count with me. Count with me. Are you ready? November 21st of the self-same year, she is hired at Turning Point USA as the Director of Urban Engagement. 4 months after she comes out from her skit, she gets a paid position at one of the largest conservative student organizations in America, when less than a year earlier, she was hoping we all died. When you get it figured out, you can let me know. So what happened on November the 21st? At a MAGA rally in Rockford, Illinois, Charlie Kirk made the announcement. Candace Owens was now the Director of Urban Engagement. Turning Point was having major problems with allegations of racism. They needed a black face. They needed cover. They needed someone who would say the things they could not say, and there she was. Fresh off of a viral video dismissing white supremacy concerns, ready and willing. Within months, she was speaking at CPAC, Fox News. Donald Trump himself noticed her. Kanye West tweeted, "I love the way Candace Owens thinks." Her audition is now paying off, my fellow Americans. The grift is paying off. In 2018, she founded Blexit to encourage black Americans to leave the Democratic Party. Tax exempt, nonprofit, money was flowing in like crazy. I want you to remember something. This is important. Candace Owens never registered as a Republican until the end of 2018. By her own admission, she had never voted before that. Never voted. The woman that's telling black Americans to leave the Democrats has never cast a ballot in her life. Now, I need everyone to sit up and listen. You're going to want to hear this part. Before Candace Owens was anybody, when she left the left, she was nobody. She had no platform, no fame, until she got an email. The email was from a Jewish man by the name of David Horowitz. It's important that you know this story, especially knowing how much she hates the Jewish people. She got an email from this man. Here is how Candace described it. Listen, "I started my political career on YouTube, making funny, satirical videos. In other words, I was a nobody. And I got an email from David Horowitz, a Jew, inviting me to this conference. And let me just tell you what a big deal it was for me. I had no connections or income whatsoever." Now you might know why she hated the left. They took her income, her connections. She hates the left now. She gets a call from the Jew when she has no connections. Now, who is David Horowitz? He was the son of Jewish high school teachers in Queens, New York. They fled from Imperial Russia. He was a Jew, an agnostic Jew, who was the fiercest defender of Israel in America, the most vocal critic of Islamic terrorism. My fellow Americans, in case you're wondering why Candace all of a sudden turned against the Jewish people so vociferously on her show, if you want to know why she did that, I'll be happy to tell you. Because David Horowitz died. Yeah. The man that was her connections was a Jew that she rode all the way to the top. And the moment he dies, she hates the Jews. That's called a grifter, an opportunist. This Jewish man reached out to an unknown girl named Candace and said, "Come, I want you to come this weekend. I want to introduce you to everyone. I'm going to give you a platform. Let me launch your career." And she went, and he did. Now, who else was at that meeting? Another young boy that had no connections, by the name of Charlie Kirk. They both got started by a Jew. Horowitz launched both of these people to fame. Charlie Kirk said Horowitz invited him to speak at Restoration Weekend in 2014, and he said it was the first big break of my career. Candace just said the same thing about this Jewish man. Charlie Kirk said over 90% of our donors, our major donors, were introduced to us at a David Horowitz event. Charlie Kirk went on to say, without David Horowitz and the Freedom Center, there would be no Turning Point USA. I don't even know if we would exist. So here's what happened. Two young, ambitious conservatives, both with no connections, both get pulled in by a Jew. Oh, the irony of it, huh? Both get their big breaks there. Both start building their careers in the same circles. And that is where Candace Owens at that event met Charlie Kirk. That's where the bond began. A Jewish man made it all happen. A Jewish man created Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. A woman that hates the Jews so much. Wow. You can't make this stuff up, my friends. Now, let's move forward. When Candace joined Turning Point in 2017, she didn't just get a job. She got Charlie Kirk. By her own admission, she and Charlie became inseparable. They took road trips together across America. She said she was his confidant, his advisor, his wing woman. Listen to how she described their relationship in her tribute video after his death. And I quote, I met him back in 2017 when Turning Point was this very young organization. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew who Charlie was. But I was always leaning into Charlie, his analytical mind, always making fun, always wanting to know what the plan is. I knew the real Charlie, and Charlie knew the real Candace. I don't know about you, but that's not how you talk about a colleague. That's really how you talk about the center of your world. I knew the real Charlie, and Charlie knew the real me. I heard a clip from Candace yesterday where she said that nothing in Charlie's life when he died was real. Nothing. What about his wife? What about his marriage? Well, according to Candace, she knew the real Charlie. He knew the real her. But when he died, nothing in his life was real. Got it. Okay, just making sure I got it right. In 2018, walks in this blonde-headed woman named Erica. And nothing for Candace was the same after that. Charlie Kirk went to what he thought was a job interview. Instead, it turned into a very long dinner with a woman named Erica Frantzvey. And Charlie realized she was the one. And just like that, everything changed. Now, let's look at the timeline. Timelines are very important. 2017, Candace joins Turning Point USA and becomes inseparable from Charlie. 2018, Charlie meets Erica and falls in love. December of 2018, Candace goes to London and meets George Farmer. 17 days later, George proposes on FaceTime while he's in South Africa. And days later, Candace marries George at Trump Winery. And then Candace leaves Turning Point USA, and Charlie marries Erica. Candace Owens, days later, accepts a FaceTime proposal from a man she knew 17 days. No dating. They never went on a date. no courtship, just a FaceTime call from South Africa, and suddenly she's engaged to a British aristocrat she barely knows. After Charlie falls in love with Erica. Her husband, George, described it this way. We had never gone on a date. We'd never talked about marriage or the future or anything. Immediately after Charlie found his future wife, we have no idea why Candace left Turning Point. In the same year that she married George Farmer, Candace left Turning Point, the organization she had built as part of her career. She was inseparable from Charlie Kirk. But why did she leave? That's the million-dollar question that no one has ever answered. But here's what we do know. After Erica entered the picture, the dynamic changed. Charlie had a new wing woman, a new confidant. And Candace is suddenly on the outside looking in. Now let's fast forward, like really fast forward. Let's go to September the 10th, 2025. Charlie Kirk was assassinated at Utah Valley University, murdered while giving a speech. The nation mourned, conservatives mourned, President Trump mourned, and Candace Owens immediately went on the attack. Not against the killer, not against the evil that took her best friend. No. Against Erica, against Turning Point, against the people closest to Charlie. She started spinning conspiracy theories. She claimed there was a federal cover-up. Donald Trump killed him. Somebody's lying. She demands investigations. She seems to be more concerned about his death than the widow. Where's her husband during all of that? And here's the most telling thing. She was not invited to speak at Charlie Kirk's memorial. President Trump was, Vice President Vance was, Tucker Carlson spoke, Erica spoke, but not Candace Owens, the woman that claimed to be the best friend. She wasn't on the program. And when asked about it, here's what she said, and I quote, I was not invited to speak alongside President Trump and J.D. Vance on the stage with Tucker Carlson at a memorial event. Now listen, I just want you to listen. Erica is in like full control. Absolutely. It's his wing woman. It's his widow. Of course the wife's in full control. Why is that a problem? No, really. Erica is in full control. Is that a bad thing? But it gets worse. Just days ago, right after the death, Candace goes on our podcast, starts sharing private text messages between her and Charlie. You got to listen to this. It's not text that she's sharing about policy or even Turning Point. No, it's text about Charlie's dating life before Erica. She told the audience that she would help Charlie get ready for his dates. And he would ask her, do I need to change this shirt? What about my hair? She was making sure everybody understood who Charlie's real wing woman was. Why are you sharing text about girls that he dated before? Why would you share those intimate details about your dead friend's romantic past on a public podcast while his widow is grieving? How is that even appropriate? This is a catty, ugly, vile, mean girl, passive-aggressive. That was a passive-aggressive jab designed for Erica. She hates Erica so much. Her behavior is the epitome of a woman scorned. All of her drama is jealousy. Believe that. Now, when Candace felt rejected in 2016, she turned on them completely and became their worst enemy. When Ben Shapiro ditched her, she turned on him completely and became their worst enemy. When she felt rejected by Trump because he bombed Iran and stood with Israel, she turned on him, called him a chronic disappointment, said she was embarrassed to have supported him. And now, when Candace feels pushed out by Erica Kirk and Turning Point, when she wasn't invited to speak at the memorial, the same pattern emerges. Burn it all down. Firestar. That's who she is. That's her pattern. When she doesn't get what she wants, when she feels scorned, when she feels replaced, she just burns it all down, my fellow American. I'm not even going to talk about Kanye West or Shapiro, how horrible she did Shapiro. I'm running out of time. But I could read on and on and on. But here's what I do want to talk about. After leaving the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro is a Jew, by the way. Now you might see why she hates Jews so much. She was scorned by a Jew, the Daily Wire. When the masks come completely off, listen to what Candace Owens said. I would rather saw off my foot than support a Jew. Jews are not human. Israelis are possessed by real demons. Netanyahu is a demon. Hamas is suffering at the hands of the Jews. Israel is a country being run by psychopaths. Then she called Israel's defensive actions a holocaust on the Palestinian children and women. See, this is not a criticism of policy. This is a dehumanization of an entire people. And remember who gave her her start? A Jew. A Jew built her career, and now she says Jews are not humans. Do you know why? Go do the timetable. David Horowitz died April 2025. Yes, go back and look when she started hating Jews. She couldn't do it while her money was alive. Did Candace Owens ever say these things before he died? Nope, she only attacks now. June 2025, after calling Trump the savior of the Western world, she went on Piers Morgan and said, he's a chronic disappointment. I'm embarrassed. I told people to vote for him because this was not going to happen, and it is happening. She's talking about bombing Iran. The woman that built her entire career on being a Trump supporter is now embarrassed. And some of you claim to be a Trump supporter, and you're following this woman. She rode his coattails to fame, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She got a photo op with him to build her credibility. She spoke at his rallies, and now she's embarrassed of him. All right, let's connect the dots before we go. Let's connect them. They're all on your screen. We can connect the dots now. 2015 to 16, liberal blogger, anti-Trump, anti-Republican, mocked Trump's anatomy, wanted all Republicans to die. 2016, social autopsy fails, gets attacked by liberals, opportunity on the left is dead. 2017, overnight, conservative. Turning Point USA becomes inseparable from Charlie Kirk, road trips, wing woman, best friends. 2018, Charlie falls in love. December, Candace falls in love, gets engaged after 17 days, and then gets married, leaving Turning Point at that point. 2019 to 2023 at the Daily Wire, big platform. She defended Kanye West with his Hitler praise. 2024, fired from the Daily Wire, converts to Catholicism, begins attacking Christians and Jews. 2025 turns on Trump and then turns on Erica. Who benefits when conservatives fight with conservatives? Who benefits when Christians are divided from Jews? Who benefits when MAGA turns on Trump? Who benefits when a grieving widow is attacked with conspiracy theories? Who benefits when America's support for Israel weakens? The enemies of Western civilization, the enemies of America, the enemies of Israel. And that might explain why, just days ago, she's now reading from the Holy Quran on her podcast. Before we close tonight, let's look at the employment record. She started 3 companies. 2 failed immediately, and the 3rd failed shortly thereafter. The entire internet turned against her. She joined Turning Point, and by 2019, she was gone from there. She went to work at Prager University. They asked her to leave. She worked at Daily Wire. By her own admission, she hated Ben Shapiro. She was gone within months. And then look what she did to Steven Crowder. Tried to destroy him on her way out to a better financial position. Fired. Recently, she looked in the camera after making accusations that Trump was a murderer. Erica knew more than she was saying. Everything was being covered up. She looked in the camera and told Turning Point USA, I'll meet you anytime, anywhere. Let's do it tomorrow. Bring it on. So what did Turning Point USA do? They responded publicly on X so we could all see it. They offered her a date, December the 15th, 2 weeks away. Plenty of time to prepare. Plenty of time to gather her evidence. And they wanted it at a formal public forum to present her accusations. And what did the woman Candace Owens say? She wasn't available. The woman that said tomorrow can't make it in 2 weeks. The most important cause of her life, her best friend, the cover-up, and she has a scheduling conflict. But wait, it gets better. Turning Point said, no problem. We're going to have the event with or without you. She didn't clear her schedule. She didn't move heaven and earth. No, she announced she would be responding to them in real time on her podcast. That's called hiding. That's called gaslighting. That's manipulation. It's what she's done her entire career. Make bold claims, issue bold challenges. And when someone actually calls your bluff, play the victim, flip the script, make them the bad guy for taking you at your word. She needs to produce real evidence, real receipts, something dead to right, and she can't because they don't exist. So instead of showing up, she'll snipe from the sidelines and claim she was treated unfairly. My fellow Americans, they only work as long as the audience doesn't see through them. But the audience is watching. We're connecting the dots. We're seeing the pattern. Tonight, I want to close with words from a fellow observer of this institution. We have no personal vendetta against Candace Owens. If she would hush, we would hush. But we do have contempt for someone that uses a dead friend to send false accusations. Candace Owens is no longer a conservative. Let that sink in. She has turned her back on the MAGA movement. She is attacking Donald Trump and his administration. She is attacking the very engine that got him elected, Turning Point USA. Charlie Kirk's widow is under fire from Candace. The organization Charlie built, targeted for destruction by Candace Owens. She told people not to vote in recent elections. A conservative telling conservatives to stay home, abandon the ballot box, hand victory to the left. She pushes zero conservative values anymore. None. What is she for? What does she champion? What principles does she defend? Nothing. She's for nothing except chaos, division, and her own platform. And her anti-Semitic rants, disgraceful. We are people of faith. We stand with Israel. We honor the Jewish people because our Savior was Jewish. And now we arrive at the most stunning development of all. Candace Owens now reading the Quran to her audience. Let that sink in. This woman that built her platform on conservative Christian values, who spoke at churches and faith conferences, who positioned herself as a champion of Western civilization, is now promoting the Quran to millions of followers. The Quran, the book that calls America the great Satan, the book that calls me and you infidels, the book that is the foundational text for every terrorist organization that has ever attacked American soil, the book that inspired 9/11, the book that motivates Hamas, the book that fuels the enemies of everything we hold dear. And Candace Owens is reading it to her audience like a bedtime story. Ask yourself, what MAGA principle is she advancing? What conservative cause is she championing? What Western civilization is she defending? None. The enemies of MAGA are not hard to identify, my fellow Americans. They're the ones that follow a book that declares America the enemy of God, Allah. They're the ones that want Israel wiped off the map. They're the ones that call Christians infidels deserving of death. And now the woman that claims to speak for conservatives is platforming that ideology to millions. From attacking Trump, attacking Israel, Jews are not human, conservatives not to vote, to reading the Quran. At what point do we stop making excuses and start seeing the pattern? At what point do we admit Candace Owens is not a conservative who went off the rails, but someone that was never what she claimed to be? And here's what's frustrating. So frustrating. When the left discovers that someone's not on their side with their agenda, they're done with them. No second chances. But as conservatives, what do? When we find out someone's not a real conservative, we subscribe, we follow, we parrot, we share their content, we defend them in the comment sections, we send them money, we platform people who are trying to destroy our movement from within. The first time you heard her turn against your president, you should have unsubscribed at that moment. And we never learn the only lesson we must learn from the left. Follow the leader of the movement, or the movement crumbles. Their leader, Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem, they're lockstep. There's a rule. The team doesn't win unless the team plays ball. What is it with us conservatives? We follow the conspiracies and turn against Trump. He's our quarterback. What are we doing? You know what happens when you don't follow the leader? You end up with little leaders that lead nowhere. You wind up with a Marjorie and a Candace. They're all the leaders of their little group, but they're leading you nowhere. Candace is not going to lead you. She has no power, no executive power. That road's going nowhere. Candace Owens burns every bridge and leads millions down the rabbit hole into brick walls. These are not leaders, they're distractions. They're splinter cells. These are people who fracture the movement for their own fame, their own bank accounts. Donald Trump is the leader of this movement. God called you to stand with this movement, Turning Point USA was the engine that got Donald Trump elected. Charlie Kirk gave his life for Donald Trump. For every one of you hypocrites that say you want to know what happened to Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk gave his life for Donald Trump. Why don't you quit trying to be a detective and give yours as well for the same man Kirk did? And Candace Owens, she's attacking everything. That's called suicide. It's time for conservatives to wake up. Drop Candace Owens. Protect the movement, not the madness. Protect the innocent people she's attacking. Protect the widow. Protect the organization. Protect Israel. Protect Trump. Because she's not protecting anybody but herself. She's trying to burn everything down. And if we keep giving her oxygen, she might succeed. My fellow Americans, I've given you tonight the complete story of Candace Owens, from Stamford, Connecticut, to the House of Lords in Britain, from Republicans should die to Trump is the savior, to Trump thinks you're stupid, from inseparable best friends with Charlie Kirk to attacking his grieving widow, from a career launched by a Jewish man to calling Jews not human. I've shown you the pattern, the opportunism, the shape-shifting, the woman scorned, the burned bridges, the failed companies, the employers who ask her to leave, the constant search for the next wave to ride, the next audience to milk, the next controversy to exploit, the next person to burn when she doesn't get what she wants. I've shown you someone invited to present evidence who suddenly had a scheduling conflict. She was never on our side. She was always on her side. Now she's turned on us, on Trump, reading the Quran to her audience. My fellow Americans, the mask is off. Professor Toto has pulled back the curtain once again. She'll keep turning. She'll keep pivoting. She'll find a new audience, a new grift, a new wave to ride. And when they don't give her what she wants, she'll burn them too. But now you know the best of the story, the complete story. Remember why I came before you tonight. It wasn't to attack Candace Owens, but to defend the innocent people that she's attacked, to defend a grieving widow, to defend the Jewish people, to defend those that cannot defend themselves. Some people are principled warriors of truth. Some people are professional provocateurs who says whatever pays. Candace Owens, the evidence speaks for itself. And now you know the best of the story. Thank you for joining me tonight. Good night, America.
You can't find it in a bottle. You can't find it in a pill. The joy I found on Calvary's Hill. You can't find it in a club or a honky-tonk bar. You'll only find it on your knees, crying, help me, Lord. Return back home, down that long road where you roam. The Father is away. Come back home, be baptized in His name, never more to roam. Oh yes. You'll only fail down a broken trail. You'll search high and low, you'll wander, but at the end of the day, find the road that leads home. Return back home from that long road where you roam. The Father is waiting.